Up next, one, of course, we owe an apology to Mr. Bhandari. We're running late. I mean, maybe this is also new to us. The whole virtual event system. Uh, so let me first set the topic up and then introduce the speaker. Mr. Bhandari will address on how machine learning and AI is a hotbed of investment in that sense. How he looks at all these startups, ideas, etc., and maybe judges them on an investment model if he has anything. To introduce the speaker that we have today, Mr. Bhandari is part of NetApp India. He's 34 years of experience in the technology. I mean, okay. He's part of NetApp India. He's a director of technology and solutions. Has been with NetApp for almost 5 years. Overall work experience of 34 years. He's worked with Tata's and Sun Microsystems and Smart Trust Infosystem in the past. He's today talking to you on what he thinks about whether AI machine learning startups are the hotbed or not. Over to you, Mr. Bhandari, and apology for the delay.
Hey, thanks, Rohit. I understand it happens. So I just share my screen and my Wi-Fi is not that stable enough. Can you see my presentation, please?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
We can now. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll stop my cam and then can you see this now?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to present to this conference. Uh, Quickly, my name is Rajender Bhandari. I head the Solution Engineering Organization for NetApp in India and STARK. And the focus of my presentation is what I would like to share is some of the AI adoption which we see in the industry and how that investment is going in the various marketplaces such and impact of AI in various industry segments as we see. Right? Of course, artificial intelligence is allowing us to make sense of an increasing amount of data, right, in a real-time basis, and the data is growing at a speed of almost like 60% plus, and likely to be at around 1.75 gigabyte by 2025. So some of the use cases across multiple of industry segments which are leveraging the capability of AI, right? What I would like to highlight is the amount of data being created in each of the use cases mentioned below is huge, right? It is expected that 80% of the emerging technology will have some or the other AI foundation. They will be based predominantly on some of the underneath AI algorithm. And words, spending on AI is likely to touch $35 billion last year alone in 2019, which is almost like a 44% increase over the year previous to that. Right? Also, we have observed that AI is embedded in many of the marketing software, right, which is available or being used by many of the organizations for lead generation, for personalization, etc., etc. Right. So, but it is becoming part and parcel of our lives for sure. Not to forget that the demand for AI talent is really huge, right? I saw a cartoon where it said one guy got stuck in an island. There was no help and support coming, and he wrote that I know AI, and there comes huge amount of help to save him from that situation. So there is a dearth of AI talent globally as well, and that's why we see a lot of education organization running an AI training. See, top performing companies, they are more than twice as likely to, as compared to the peers, to use the AI in their marketing, right? And some of the data which I saw on the web is they use almost like 28% of the top company use AI in their marketing. This is with a company who are not that nimble and not up to the time. There are only some 12% of them. Okay, if you really look at Amazon's algorithm for customer who bought item, also bought, right? If you go to Amazon site, try to buy something, you'll get that the customer who bought this item also bought uh, this additional item as well. And even Netflix algorithm, right, which helps customer to, based on the choice of selection of their view, it gives you recommendation as well. And Netflix has been able to generate a revenue of over $1 billion just by those additional recommendations which they give it out to their customers. Facial recognition is another thing which has a huge uh, leverage of AI, and which is the solutions around facial recognition is increasing at rate of almost like 20%. Right, a lot of uh, city surveillance deployment which is happening in the country. They predominantly you see a host of cameras coming up all across, and then they built an algorithm of video analytics on top of it, which are predominantly based on facial recognition and some use cases either related to the access control or related to the security. So these are some of the new gen startups as well as established enterprises which we see using or leveraging AI in many other fields as such. And if I come specific to India perspective, I would like to mention definitely a project called Airavat, which is a vision document published by the government of India, which focuses on AI-specific cloud infrastructure, right, for research and development. It's like an AI for all, right? Uh, and they really want to develop AI infrastructure where people can develop the various use cases. Uh, and they have clearly defined the kind of focus areas they would like to deploy this infrastructure for, which is education, healthcare, agriculture, security, surveillance, etc. Right? Almost over $1 billion are likely to be invested in Project Airavat. So is on quantum computing. Right? The last budget, our esteemed finance minister mentioned that the government of India will invest almost like $1 billion in quantum computing. Right? IMD, right? Which is the Indian Meteorological Department, they also said that they would like to use AI for a short range weather forecasting, right? And specific to the current situation, which is a challenge for all of us because of pandemic. It is not only creating impact in the global economy, but also uh, having an impact all over, right? So several technologies are emerging which possibly received lukewarm customer responses earlier, but now they are being used for human contact, automatic processing of all the vaccine development, etc. Right. Uh, I would also like to just highlight over here what is NetApp India doing over here. Right. We see a lot of startup coming up in AI, the field of AI ML as such. NetApp India itself runs a program called Startup Accelerator, where we really incubate startups and provide them assistance, right? So NetApp Accelerator is a global startup program that aims to really fuel the innovation by partnering with the deep technical organizations, right? We provide them business mentorship, we provide them technology mentorship, we provide them access to customers because we have large customer base in India, right? So we provide them access to them as well. We provide them co-working spaces, grants, access to NetApp technologies as well, right? Uh, so, and we are in the sixth cohort of NetApp Accelerator program, and bulk of the organization which we have picked up in that program are doing something or the other on AI, analytics, IoT, etc. That's definitely a hotbed where we see a lot of great minds working together, bringing out innovation. Needless to say, that it has impact on all the sectors, be it healthcare, education, travel, tourism, etc., etc. So I would not like to go there. I'm sure a lot of it is already shared in this forum. So with that as a background, I would like to say what's NetApp doing in this case, right? But before I go there, the way we see it in an AI infrastructure which needs to help customers to build best of breed application on top of it, there are some conflicting profiles. Data scientists, the data engineer, and the IT infrastructure architect. Data scientists, their predominant focus is around how to build up the logics or use cases, as we call it, using all the AI ML tools, right? Uh, they really like to go to the cloud, use the greatest technology available over there, and what they're just bothered about that they need to have an easy access to the data for their training environment, etc. And then we have data engineers, right? Their key focus is, of course, to get the best quality data to data scientists to be able to build algorithm, but also at the same time, it is extremely compute intensive environment, right? And at times uses GPUs computing as well. And the whole focus of IT infrastructure is around how do we really give best of breed, fastest compute GPUs, how do we provision, in a time which, in a manner which is very, very satisfactory to all the data scientists as well as engineer, right? It should be like a cloud-like environment if possible, which is self-service, on demand, you pay as you use kind of the environment as such, right? With this conflicting interest, right? What and the ingredients for AI projects being, as I mentioned, either computer GPU computing. You have a lot of AI frameworks, which many of you use as well, and then the AI algorithm which needs to build framework. But the core of the whole is the data, right? The quality and the accuracy of your training depends upon the data set and quantity and the quality of data you may have, and that is where NetApp plays. Right? NetApp allows organizations, help create a data pipeline from core to edge to cloud, right? Or a lot of data is being generated outside of the core, right? On the edge, be it IoT devices, etc. Right? How do you really gather all of that data? Push it out securely to the core data center, right? Where you have a data preparation stage where you really put the data together and take out the useful one and then put the training environment, which uses a lot of GPU computing. And once you have a very accurate model, is how do you really put it out in the inference with the production? A lot of customers likes to use the latest data available on the cloud, so they can possibly push the data directly to the cloud and leverage the capability in the public cloud. And hence, if I talk about, let me sorry, go back to the previous slide where I mentioned about the edge. So in the edge, the NetApp offers a very small footprint of our the largest storage OS called ONTAP, which can run on general purpose server, which you can aggregate the data at the edge, or one can run like an HCI having some NVIDIA GPU compute in that, and you can run inferencing on the edge. That's going to be another trend, and then push the data to the core or to the cloud directly. Uh, the core is we have a joint offering with our partner called NVIDIA. I'll come to that. And we work with all the hyperscalers like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud to help provide customers a really enterprise grade data management platform which works very well with all the AI algorithms. I mentioned about our offering around the core is what we call the ONTAP AI. It is joint collaboration with our partner NVIDIA, which are clearly a leader in the GPU computing. NetApp is clearly a leader in data management, right? So we provide a simple reference architecture to our intensive testing, which we do together at the back end in our engineering lab, so that you have infrastructure which is simple to deploy, eliminates all the design complexity. A lot of customer comes back to us, okay, I want to have a training environment. How do I size it? This is my workload. How do I implement it? Right? I need to have disparate components coming from storage vendor, compute vendor, network. How do I put it together? What is the best practices? How do I implement it? How do I size it? So all of that is, all the pains are taken away by both NetApp and NVIDIA, and we help you to avoid all the design guides, that's the implementation guide, integrated, tested together, right? And there are partners who can put it all that together for you, so that you just deploy that integrated stack in your infrastructure, power it on, and it just works like crazy. And it is very powerful. You can start small in a configuration, right? And scale as your need grows. And it is extremely proven architecture. Imagine NVIDIA DGX computing boxes now. They have launched up to 800, right, which has thousands of CUDA cores running on that. The storage has to be really powerful enough or fast enough to be able to pump up the data so that the GPUs are utilized to 95% of the capacity. Right? Right. At the same time, the storage provides a very low latency of 10 microsecond or so. It is all automated through Ansible integration. It just takes 20 minutes to configure. Right? It's really scales. You can start small with one GPU or DGX box, scale all the way up to hundreds of that. So we have reference architectures which are available. The one DGX all the way up to 32 DGX. Those documents are available on the web on NetApp as well as at NVIDIA website, and helps you to build up an integrated data pipeline from edge to cloud. As I mentioned, you can start small, grow as you need. With the latest A100, what I saw was that allows customer to not only have extremely powerful infrastructure at site, but at the same time leverage the capability of the new generation solid state drive called NVMe Drive really brings down the footprint significantly as almost by half of the previous office. Along with that, we do have a breadth of broad set of services for people to be able to go down that path of from advisory services all the way up to implementation and management and monitoring. Before I conclude, just a couple of slides about NetApp, who we are, what's our credentials, right? We are a global technology company which are focused on data management in the hybrid cloud world. There are close to $5.5 billion. In fact, in India, we have been present almost like for 15 years. 3 years back, NetApp India invested close to 1,000 crores in developing one of the largest R&D center investment in our campus, NetApp campus in Bangalore city. Right, we have a global presence, and we plow back a very significant percentage of our revenue back to R&D. Uh, And a few more data points, which I would like to just leave it for your consumption, that we are a established player in the data management in the hybrid cloud world. We have a leadership across the portfolio, be it storage, be it software defined storage, be it an object store, be it a file storage. Uh, okay, and of course, we all the big clouds, right? Whether it's Azure, AWS, or GCP, we work very closely with them to bring out our joint solutions, which helps you to not only develop but deploy your best of breed AI infrastructure on the edge to go to the cloud. That is what I wanted to cover. Maybe I'll stop here, and I will be more than happy to uh, take any questions if the audience has. Yep. I hope I'm audible. Rohit, are you there? Hi, Rohit.
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari, for such an insightful session. So, Rohit is having some bad network, so he couldn't join. So, thank you for the session. Uh, so, there's only one question from the audience which I would want you to take. So, does this contain the tools that is essential for artificial intelligence?
Yes, we do provide a full package of tools as well, right, for you to build up your use cases. So they're all based on open source. Okay, and these are essentially tested by NetApp, all the reference guide, but it has predominantly do it yourself tools that we recommend, right? And you can build up all the. So some of the tools come from our partner like NVIDIA, and a majority of them come from the open.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your session and such great insights.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here. It was.
Thank you